Hi everyone, I'm Ian from QTips, where we explore GIS concepts and software in a nutshell. In this video, we are going to look at the El Nino weather phenomenon using QGIS. Now, I live in Cape Town, South Africa, and so far this year we have had some quite severe weather, and I overheard someone saying the other day that they thought that this was due to El Nino. Now, as far as I'm aware, El Nino has not taken full effect yet, but the latest climate models do suggest that El Nino may already be developing. In fact, for 2026, they are predicting a super El Nino. So I thought it would be interesting to take a look at some of the live NASA layers, like the sea surface temperature layers in QGIS, and see whether we can detect any early signs of warming in the ocean. And just a quick reminder, for more structured QGIS courses and tutorials, you can visit the QTips learning platform at q-tips.co.za. And there you will find free and paid QGIS courses for beginners and some more advanced users as well. But for now, let's take a look at this El Nino phenomenon. So what is El Nino? Well, normally you get trade winds blowing from east to west. Okay, here we go. I'm going to draw this out. So we get trade winds blowing across the Pacific Ocean from east to west. And what these winds do essentially is they drag the warmer water in a westerly direction. And so ultimately what happens is the warmer water starts collecting in the western part of the Pacific Ocean. So it kind of drags it west, and it ends up collecting in the western Pacific around Indonesia and Australia. So, and the other thing that happens is with this water being dragged to the west, you also get a situation where the much colder, nutrient-rich water off the coast of South America kind of wells up, and you get quite good conditions for fishes and wildlife. Now, what happens in an El Nino year is these trade winds weaken, and what that causes is the water kind of flows back. So it's not as efficient at dragging the water to the west, and so then this warmer water, go back to my little red pen here, kind of filters back, or you could almost say it flows back downhill and collects in the middle of the Pacific. And then also there's quite a large patch that collects off the coast of South America or Peru, and then that has the effect of preventing that warmer water from surfacing. So that's one thing that happens. But the other thing that happens is it shifts the whole weather pattern slightly back to the east. So the normal weather pattern, which looks like this, where the warmer water is over Australia and the Indonesian waters, then what happens is it shifts slightly east. The warmer water now is in the central Pacific, and so you get a situation where the whole system shifts slightly east. So whereas previously you would get a low pressure and air rising in this zone, you now have air sinking, and this is quite a bit drier and doesn't have as much moisture. So that has the effect of causing droughts in Australia and then also in the Amazon basin, but then it causes much wetter areas in, say, California and areas like Texas. So let's see if we can spot some of those patterns using those NASA layers in QGIS. So we're going to use those NASA sea surface temperature anomaly layers as a visual check. And then we'll also look at whether the central and eastern Pacific are showing any kind of warming patterns that could indicate that El Nino is starting to develop. And we'll also import that zone. So it's Nino 3.4 regions, what it's called. We'll import those coordinates. So let's go have a look at that in QGIS. So I'm going to close this down or minimize that. And let's go into QGIS. Okay, so I've got a brand new project of QGIS, and we're going to add a few layers just to give us some regional context, and then we'll also add those NASA layers. So if you don't have it, you just need to add your NextGIS QMS layers. So just go to Plugins, and then go to Manage and Install Plugins. And I think this is a core plugin, so most of you should have this already. But if you don't have it, just type in NextGIS So next and then GIS. And you want to activate the Quick Map Services plugin. So just turn that one on. And then if you need to, click install. And then we can close that down. And then that'll give us access to a bunch of layers. So this is where we're going to go. We're going to go and add, let's add the some satellite imagery and then maybe also some boundary data as well. So if you go to Web and then Quick Map Services and then scroll down to Esri, we'll start off by adding the Esri satellite. There we go. And let's zoom in there. And then once again, we'll go to Quick Map Services, Esri, and let's add the Esri boundaries and places. And then just put that above the satellite. And that should give us some regional context. Right, so now we've got some base data. Let's add one of those. Well, first of all, we need to link to the WMS site or service for those NASA layers. So if you go to your browser, so select your browser, and then you want to right click on WMS/WMTS, right click and click on new connection. So you're going to create a new connection and you're going to call it whatever you like, but NASA GIBS layers is a good one. And then you need to type in the URL. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste that URL into the description. But if you copy that URL from the description of this video and paste it here and then click OK, you will then have a link. Okay, so once you've copied that link for the URL, just right click and say Control V. And you could type it out as well. It just needs, just make sure that it's identical to this URL here and then click OK. And then you will have a new link. Okay, so now in this link, this is a link to all of those live NASA layers, which are very useful. And I think for us to assess whether El Nino is taking effect already, we can start off by adding the sea surface temperatures. So let's expand this, this service and this link, and we'll go down to sea surface temperatures. So sea surface temperatures, and then we'll add this one. So I'm going to make this a little wider. Oh, let's just zoom that back to where it was. And we'll add the GHR sea surface temperature L4MUR, and if we drag that across and drop that into our view, we'll see the sea surface temperatures. And then let's just make sure it's, yeah, that's fine actually. So we can leave it above the satellite imagery. Okay, so we can immediately see from the legend, make this a little bigger so we can see the full legend, that the black, dark purple, dark blue, and blue areas are the much cooler areas. Okay, when we expect to see those areas of cooler sea temperatures around the poles, and then for the equator, much warmer. So then green, yellow, and orange into red and dark red are much warmer areas, and that's what we expect to see. And we are looking to identify what's going on in the Pacific. Okay, so the trade winds, let's add that as well. So we can go to the browser and then let's go to winds. Let's scroll down, and wind speeds at the bottom down here. And then the one we want to add is called, which one is it? This one here. CCMP REMSS, zonal wind speed monthly. If we drag that across and drop that, and let's have a look at those wind speeds. Okay, so now this is the wind direction. So anything below 0, so the greens into blues, those are easterlies, and then everything above 0, those are westerlies. So you can immediately see that the easterly trades are represented by blues and greens, and then if it's orange, then it represents westerlies. So in this area, we can already see that there's a slight weakening by the looks of it. And what we would actually effectively need to do is compare monthly data. So maybe take a screenshot and then compare it in a month's time, etc., to see whether these wind speeds are changing. And ultimately, we'd need to compare it over a number of years to see if it was stronger or weaker than previous years. Okay, so that's interesting, but we can't really determine based on that. I mean, I'm not a climatologist and certainly not an oceanographer. So I don't know whether El Nino is taking effect here. I mean, that does look pretty warm, but if we look at this map, we can see that the majority of the warm water is in the western part of the Pacific. So, I mean, if I had to take a guess, I would say that looks maybe normal. Maybe El Nino is not taking effect based on the sea surface temperatures. But there is another layer we can add, which is the sea surface temperature anomalies. And now that layer is going to indicate what's going on, because what it does is it compares the sea surface temperature to what it normally is. And then that'll show us if it's warmer or colder than it normally is. So let's go and add that layer. So if we go back to browser, and we're going to look for sea surface temperature anomalies. Now expand that. And also add the GHR-SST, sea surface temperature, drag that across and drop that. And what does that tell us? And that tells a different story. So now what we've got is we've got a situation. Let's turn off the other layers. And if we just look at the sea surface temperature anomalies, we'll see that everything under naught, those are sea surface temperatures that are cooler than normal. Okay, and then everything above 0 is warmer than normal. And if you see any brown sections, that's average, okay, or normal. So based on that, this does, to my layman eye, look like what El Nino describes, where we've got a cap over the ocean off the west coast of Peru, a warm cap of water. But I still don't see whether this is, well, actually, let's add that zone, that Nino 3.4 region, and we'll add the coordinates for that to see if that coincides nicely with the area where the warm water for El Nino is prevalent. So let's go and add that now. So we'll click on the Open Data Source Manager, and we'll add the delimited text option, and we'll just go and navigate to a CSV, which I've got, which is the coordinates, and you can see this is it. So it's basically 4 points. This fifth point is a duplicate of the first point, so we can ignore that. And it's the coordinates for the region to monitor whether El Nino is taking effect. So let's click Add and Close, and there we go. So now we've got that, and we've styled that with some blue diamonds. We can have a look and see that pretty much does look like the area has warmed up. Okay, so that is the kind of the mid-Pacific. So based on that, this does look like there could be El Nino taking effect. I think the thing to do, though, because this, remember, is a snapshot in time, today's date, the 5th of June, 2026, what you'd need to do is maybe take a snapshot every week and then compare it, because if the easterly winds start strengthening again, you might get a situation where it pushes this warm water further east, or further west, I beg your pardon, and then the El Nino weather pattern changes. So the thing to do is to compare a number of months together to see whether El Nino is taking effect. But I think it's quite a useful exercise using the NASA live layers to see whether the conditions for El Nino are being satisfied. And perhaps what we can do is maybe just create a polygon for that zone. So what I'm going to do is just create a new geo package. And so I'm clicking on that button. And then let's just go create a new geo package. I'll stick it in my tutorial folder. I'll just call it geo package. There we go. I'll have a new layer. Let's call it, I think it's called, I don't know if it's zone 3.4, 3_4, but that's fine. Let's just make it a polygon. We can have a name. And it can be a text string with the 25 characters. Let's add that and click OK. And there it is there. So what I'm going to quickly do is just change the styling so that it is points, 2 points, and then let's make it like a navy blue. And then let's close that down. So we'll start editing. And then what I'm going to do is just activate a toolbar called the shape digitizing toolbar. And then I'll start capturing a new shape. I'm going to digitize a shape, and then let's capture an oval, and let's create an ellipse and put it there. Zone 3.4. Okay, there we go. And then we can deselect. And then let's just refresh this project. Let's turn that off. Turn this on again. Maybe zoom in slightly. Okay, I'm not too sure why that was not rendering. Okay, so what you could do now that we've got the zone denoted or identified, once a month we can export an image and then compare those images and see whether the sea surface temperatures are changing. Okay, and that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful. Remember, once again, if you are looking for more formalized structured training, go have a look at the QTips learning platform at q-tips.co.za and have a look and see there's a couple of free courses there, but then also ones you can pay for if you're looking to do more structured QGIS training. But that's it from me. Hope you've enjoyed this little video. Till the next one, I'm Ian from QTips. Cheers.